presented by Dano's Seasoning. Yum yum, get you some.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome into the Sun Belt Syndicate. And as we know, not the greatest of weekends for Sun Belt football, but we did have some good things that we will talk about. Before we get going with all that, as always, brought to you by collegefootballdogs.com and our presenting sponsors, Fanplex Graphics, TSN Off Road, Dubby Energy, and Dano's Seasoning. Fellas, I know I've showed you these before, but Fanplex Graphics got your Troy and your App State teams covered, and slowly going to be adding more. It feels good to have the 3B podcast all back together tonight.
Oh,
fellas.
Yeah. Hey, Dom, hold on one second.
All right.
JMU just scored again. Yeah, we're good.
I think South Alabama did too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man. But as always, joining us.
What's up, Artie?
He finally got his Sunbelt shirt and polo. So he'll be repping down there in Texas for us. So it's a good thing. We finally got him all straightened out on that. Jared Belk, Coastal played a hell of a game, but still lost. Yeah, we'll get to that one for sure. I thought they stood a great chance in that one. Marv, Seth, how we doing tonight before we get into it?
Doing all right. A little under the weather, but we're living. That's all that matters. Marv, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. We got the band back together. It's like you and I are in different hotel rooms in different cities.
Where are you at?
Richmond. How about you?
Jacksonville.
Nice.
North Carolina?
Florida.
Florida. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you could say Jacksonville, like 17 different states have a Jacksonville. I feel like.
Yeah, that's true.
One of those teams from the Sun Belt played in Jacksonville this week. I believe that was the away game.
I know the reason you're thinking about that too, Dom. Us old wrestling fans. I saw the same clip you saw. Was it Rick Steiner's son for Jacksonville State?
Is he on Jacksonville State? Braun Breaker was, a former Kennesaw State player, so maybe it is Jacksonville State.
I think it is Jacksonville State.
Okay. Yeah, that's I did see something about that. So good stuff. Dominic Ambrose saying, "What's up, fellas? What's up, Dominic? Thanks for joining the show." He's probably got some thought processes on the other black and gold team from the conference that's continuing to struggle as well. And CJ Orndorff says, "Dukes." Yeah, I heard that a lot.
They can put as many letters in there as touchdowns that they scored.
Yeah. Deservingly so.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not a bad way to spend a Saturday there. So let's jump right into the action as we get into the week 4 wrap up. First up, let's take a look at the overall conference. Again, we've done this every week. We're going to continue to update this graphic. I actually didn't share this graphic all over social medias like Sunday mornings like I typically do. But you're seeing it here for the first time, and I'll put it up there probably for tomorrow morning for people to check it out. But obviously, only 2 W's on the weekend. Technically, there was 3 wins, right? But South Alabama going up against App State's not going to count towards this because this is the Sun Belt versus other conferences. If you're wondering why South Alabama is not there and App State's not on the other side with the L's, obviously everybody else is sitting there in that collection. And when you look at this, not impressive, right, fellas?
No, I know.
Not a good week at all.
I know at least one that wasn't impressive. I can tell you that right now. I think we're all still sulking over that one. But I did catch obviously I called the JMU game. I was following the Coastal game. I watched a little bit of football yesterday.
Yeah, I guess you were you driving down to Jacksonville yesterday? Is that
today?
Oh, you did it today. Okay.
Yeah.
That was only like a whole day adventure, right?
Oh yeah.
Marv, I know you checked out some of the games as they were happening on Saturday.
Yeah, so we were camping. We got back. I got to watch pretty much the entire second half of the Tulane Louisiana game,
Nice.
which was a really good football game.
Yeah, that one actually surprised me a bit. I mean, it didn't shock me that Tulane won the game, but I thought Louisiana had a really good chance to win that one. possibly cover. I don't think they did, though. Do you remember what the spread was on that?
No, I can look it up, but no, I mean they fought hard. I mean, we'll get to the game in a second. It was weird though watching on TV. I forgot they're having construction on that side of the stadium, and it looked like there was nobody there. It's like, oh, that's right, they're getting a little upgrade there.
Yeah, definitely an upgrade.
I did follow a little bit of the Ole Miss Georgia Southern game. Georgia Southern relatively held their own for a little bit. I think the first part of that game. I know that they scored. I think it was like 21-0, and then Georgia Southern punched it in and kept it reasonably close until third quarter, I guess, maybe.
Yeah,
I don't have it in front of me, so
I would not say within striking distance necessarily, but it wasn't out of control, and a quick score and then a turnover, and it's looking a little bit different of a game.
It was worth if you're a Georgia Southern fan, it was worth watching past halftime. We'll put it that way. How about that?
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
There you go.
All right, so we've got the one victory over the ACC. We've got a victory over the American. Actually, that should be the other way around, right? Yeah, because they lost to Tulane. I got to fix that. Yeah. We did lose to a Conference USA team, which isn't great. Kept perfect against the FCS, went 1-0. Troy got the victory over Florida A&M. Big 12 kept us down. Big 10 kept us down. Most of those were really expected, but we'll get into the more specific stuff. And then this is the overall picture updated with where we are now. Again, we got to fix that American one. I guess I got that number mixed up, but the overall should be correct. It's still a winning record at this point, 6-5 versus the American, perfect versus the FCS, 2-1, still winning record versus Conference USA, but it would have been nice to have a 3-0 perfect record there. That game was not close though. The SEC 1-4, ACC 1-5. Mountain West didn't play this week. Big 10 added to the 0-3 mark. Big 12 added another loss there, 0-2, and we didn't play any MAC teams yet again. I mean, I don't really want to spend a whole lot of time on this. This is more just an update for the season totals, but mostly respectable versus peer conferences, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, American, just over 500. Conference USA, the same thing. Mountain West, one game under. MAC has really only had one game, so it's hard for me to say, as a conference, the MAC or the Sun Belt is better at this point.
I will say this. This has been a little bit of a you and Marge show the last few weeks. Just from watching Sun Belt football over the last few weeks, there's some Sun Belt teams that are going to be looking for a new head coach next year for many reasons. Whether your team's terrible, I will get into that here in a little bit. But Artie, I'm sorry to talk about it, but let's talk. Just off the top of my head, Chesney's not going to be there long. Let's be honest. And possibly. if we're all being real, Dom, come on now. Possibly he's in his first. Look what he's doing. I'm not talking about this year. Let's talk about 2 years, 3 years. All right.
Yeah, more realistic for sure. But I think.
All right, you think Kenny's there
we'll
next
get into
year?
it more in depth, but the overvaluing of the UNC victory may be getting a little bit at it. Yeah, they still allowed 50 points, and UNC is not that great. So
they did score one more time right there. But look at long term. Just talk about Texas State, South Alabama. Who else we got? JMU. That's three right there. It is. And we can get into this in a little bit, but it's almost like if you are a building block to move on to somebody else. It used to be looked at as a bad thing, but now not necessarily the end of the world. If coaches are coming there to build their name through you, it says a lot about your program, in my opinion.
Yeah,
that's a whole nother topic for another day. But
we can touch on that. Go ahead, Mark.
Well, I don't know if it was on our group chat or maybe Dom and I talked about it last week, but at the G5 level, if you have a coach that's been there for a very long time, it's probably not the best thing. It either means that, the positive is you got a guy that was an alma mater, and he wants to be there, or you're stagnant. Yeah, either you're not doing well and you move on, or you're doing fantastic and you get poached by a bigger program for more money. So, in the Sun Belt, if you've had a coach for, Coach Clark's the longest tenured guy in the Sun Belt right now, and it stinks for the fan bases. But if you're losing a coach because you're good, I think that's a good thing. If you're losing a coach because you're not good, well, try again.
And I think, and we can get into this in a little while, I think as App fans, we've learned this process. We've gone through seeing Satterfield leave, seeing Drink leave, and then you're like, all right, well, we got a guy that's going to stick around for a while. What have we learned? He stuck around. Well, we'll get into that. Go ahead. We'll keep going.
Yeah. All right. So, here we go. Right into it. 48-14. This was a Thursday night shellacking. I think in the description of this show, I called it an annihilation because this game, I felt like it was even more out of control than the 48-14 final score leads you to believe. I guess maybe you could say that the Hail Mary completion before halftime made you believe that, had they come out and scored on the first possession of the second half, you're looking at it. Well, I guess it would have been a 28-14 game at that point. You probably do feel vastly different if that were to have occurred. As we know now, that did not. And it felt a lot like Clemson a couple weeks ago. Seth, you and I were at that one live. Marv, I know you were watching that one on TV, and happy you weren't there for that one, but you were both there for this one in person. So you guys tell me a little bit more about what you saw there.
It was just deja vu. I mean, it's 3 weeks in a row that we've come out and got off to a very slow start. The other team started off great, and we just can't dig ourselves out of a hole. I mean, this game in particular, and Seth, you tell me if you saw it different, but we just got dominated on both sides of the ball on the line. I mean, we couldn't run the ball. We couldn't stop them from running. They had 320 rushing yards, averaging like 7.6 yards a clip.
We couldn't catch a pass. I mean, it's that simple.
It was,
you can't pad, you can't tackle, you can't block. I mean, you can't do anything.
Yeah, it was bad. And the fact that you have to throw a Hail Mary before halftime to give yourself a glimmer of hope, then you come out and go for it on fourth down in your first drive and turn the ball over on downs, and they score again. I mean, it was embarrassing, and it's been a long time since we've had 2 embarrassing losses in the same year. Clemson loss was bad. This one at home on national TV, it was terrible to watch. And we got Liberty coming to the house next weekend, and our old friend Mr. Chadwell coming back up. And man, if they blow us out, it's going to be very, very, very loud and Kid Brewer for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah, well, it'll be loud and then it'll be real quiet, I think, right? What were you hearing in the stands? Because obviously it didn't last too long. I know people were leaving at a good clip, but I mean, it had to just be frustration.
That's the problem with the culture. I mean, you asked us to be honest. We're just going to go there. It's not people, and I say some App fans, maybe we're a little different, but it's almost like people have come to expect it in a way. Like the play calling to not being ready to begin a football game, not being prepared, and it being evident. I mean, it's just not the App State football that we all grew up with. From, like I said, from the beginning of the game to the end of the game, there's no putting your foot on their throat and just going after it. It's hopefully, and I go all the way back to JMU 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago at halftime when we had a comfortable lead and we could have put a foot on their throat and decided we were going to get conservative after that, and look what happened. And it's been downhill ever since. Maybe that was the turn. I don't know. But it's hard to watch. It's extremely hard to watch. I mean, just to be blunt, there's got to be a change made. I mean, I don't care. And maybe we're all wrong, and maybe they run the table the rest of the year and they put up 50 points a game. But after what we watched the other night, having to sit through that in the rain, the fans deserve a lot more. And you can blame it on the players all day long, but guess what? somebody recruited those players, somebody signed those players, and somebody is responsible for getting those players ready every week. So blame it on the players if you want, but somebody's got to show them how to tackle. Somebody's got to show them how to catch a ball. Somebody's got to show them how to block. I mean, blame it on them if you want, but it starts at the top, and you are the head coach, so somebody's got to figure that out. But very, very disappointing, extremely disappointing. It's going to be hard to continue to support them under this regime. In my personal opinion, you got to clear house from the very beginning. And yes, Marv, even the janitors, everybody's got to go. The whole shebang.
The comment at the bottom, there was one janitor that was doing a very good deed cleaning up the hill at the end of the game, but he
was just collecting money from turning cans in. That's all that was.
Listen, take nothing away from South Alabama. Like, those guys came, they were ready to go. They were physical. I just watched their defensive line, like constant movement before the snap, the way they got off blocks, like that. They were the better team. And no disrespect to South Alabama, but you would think that App State at home the score should have been opposite, right?
What's 48 minus 14? How bad was it, Dom?
It's 34 points. It's 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, 34. Yeah.
You were favored by 7 points. You get beat by 34. You tell me.
Right.
Come on.
Yeah. It was it was bad.
Go ahead, Mark.
No, it was. I mean, in the first half, there's you said what was it like in the stadium? First half, there was a couple calls that didn't really go our way. It definitely wouldn't have changed the flow of the game. But the almost pick six, which Christian Horton, give that guy credit for hustling 100+ yards to save a touchdown, which they got, I think, on the very next play.
Yeah.
It was frustrating. We could do nothing, and we couldn't stop them from doing anything. It's like their game against Northwest State just continued into our game, and everyone's saying, "Oh, we had to do it on 4 days rest," and they essentially got a whole week. It didn't matter. We were beat from the jump. It was we did not look like we wanted to be there. There was a point where I almost felt like some of the kids gave up, and I don't want to question their character or their integrity, but it was. If you looked at the kids on the sideline, it was like, oh my God, when is this going to be over?
I agree fully with your statement about not taking anything away from South Alabama. That's a good football team.
Yeah.
And guess what? They were prepared to play a football game. They were prepared to play a football game. Plain and simple. And guess where that starts at?
Head coach.
Who gets you ready every week? Exactly. Yep. I mean, I've sat here and thought about this for like multiple days, obviously. And you think about I saw a screenshot today. I saw it on Twitter. It was from ECU talking about how after firing Ruffin McNeil, all it's been is less than mediocre. When we talk about getting rid of a football coach, you got to think, and it's easy for us to sit here and say, as a football fan, yes, fire him. We can't watch this anymore. But long term, you got to look for long term. Have we got to a point where we're so out of tune that we have no choice but to cut it off now? Because once you cut it off, you're either going one way or two ways. You're either going further down or you're starting to climb back up. So it's easy to say, let's change, but it's also something else to think about long term as well.
Yeah. CJ is saying that, man, you stood over this loss, sign him up as head coach. If Seth became head coach, you'd instantly see the return of the triple option offense and just a running play almost every
go
game.
to Watauga High School. There is a football coach at Watauga High School. You don't even have to drive 5 miles. He'll work for $100,000 a year. The best. This is up there with parking at baseball games for me right now.
Hey, no matter what happens, no triple option, please. Geez, no triple option.
Yeah, I think we're past that. My big thing here is I'll touch on App real quick, and then I want to go back. Like you guys said, South Alabama does need an immense amount of credit for how they came in and prepared and performed in this game. To me, App hasn't established the run one time yet this season. They did a terrible job of it once again. I mean, as a team, they rushed for 119 yards. Again, with what you guys expect, what App State fans expect. You're expecting one player to come up with almost 119 yards, especially against a South Alabama defense that had given up a good number of points to their opponents. They score a lot, but they also gave up a lot. And you go into this game and you score 14 points. So I think what I want to see and what I hope happens is to use the pass to continue to open up the run. obviously that's not just like the one fix is going to make everything better. All of a sudden they're going to start winning all these games. But the run is not working. You have to go away from trying to establish the run to open up the pass game and just reverse it. This may be a team that is better suited for an air raid type offense, and we're seeing what that can do with some of the other teams in this conference, Georgia Southern and Texas State, although Texas State's got a fine job with their running backs, but have also struggled in a few games to really get a couple of their top running backs performing. One that did not have any trouble performing was Fluff Bothwell. What an amazing name. First of all, obviously we found out during the broadcast that's Fluff is not his, given name, but his acquired nickname, and a true freshman running back who came in there and ran for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns versus an App State team. Now, the defense for App State hasn't been great so far. But again, like you guys said, this is a Thursday night game at App State. This isn't new. This isn't new territory. This isn't something that the short rest was surprised. They've done this. They know this. The coaching staff especially knows this. Most of the players have been aware and have gone through these types of short weeks before. And you're still coming in and letting the team run wild on you. Full credit to Gio Lopez and the rest of that offense, because they also have Jamal Pritchett, who is just one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in this conference. So they've literally got a 3-headed monster at the quarterback, running back, and wide receiver position. And look, the defense looked like they rounded into form, keeping off App State totally in check for this one. So I don't really know how to explain it, because it's not just one problem, I guess, like Seth has said and Marv has said. It's not just one thing. But you do have to say, like, look at what hockey does, right? It's not the same, but it's something to look at. When things aren't going your way and you can't change all the players out, what do you have to do? You have to change the head guy. I'm not saying that you have to do it right this second. There's still time in the season, but you have to look at it as a possibility, right? You can't change 100 of players on a roster. You're going to have to do something. I guess now you can really, right?
Yeah.
NIL and portal, you can change that many people.
I'm going to say a couple of things about this game, and I'm moving on, but hell of a running back. I'd love to see the yards after contact from this guy. I mean, it was nobody could tackle him. You could try, but nobody could tackle him. Very good athlete, but just lack of tackling. Defense was dropping 8, forcing us to run the ball. You got 4 solid running backs back there, and you just can't run the ball. I mean, hats off to South Alabama, but you guys are going to call me crazy, but you guys have seen it before. We've seen the same shit show year after year after year. App will come out and play lights out against Liberty. You watch. Promise. Bank it. You know how it goes. Every year.
And I'll say this on that accord. I don't think Liberty's all that good. Go look at all their games, man. They've struggled to come back late in games.
They've not getting beat by 40 every week.
Well, App's not going to be favored in that game. There's no chance.
No, line's already out. Line's already out. We're
13.
Is it 13? No.
I don't know. What is it?
I thought it was 5.5, something like that.
That's generous.
It should be 13.
App will step up, though. But that's not to say I don't think he should be fired. He should be fired. I'm done.
All right. Yeah. We've spent a good amount of time on that, but CJ was saying, even as a JMU Dukes fan, he watched the game and really didn't know how to feel, because I think it's kind of along the lines. Everyone in this conference wants their rival to be really good when they play them. Right. So it makes sense in a way. You're like, I kind of, in one sense you like it because the team you dislike is losing, but you're like, if they're not good, then what fun is it to play a team that's down, right? So, yeah, I don't know, but we will move on. We don't want to spend too much time on one team. One game that was a shocker to start off with, and it seemed to be getting a lot of attention nationally, because Marshall took the early lead over number 3 in the country, Ohio State. But obviously it didn't last, with Ohio State ultimately winning this game 49-14. So obviously they started to outpace them just a little bit in this one, right, fellas?
Yeah, I think Marshall went up a quick 7-0. And then I started following a little bit, and then Ohio State would answer. Marshall would try to answer back, and then I think eventually Ohio State pulled away right around halftime. They started finally pulling away a little bit.
Yeah.
28-14 at halftime.
Was it?
Yeah, I mean, it was, respectable first half for Marshall, but, what you would think would happen, you're going to a Big Ten school, going to the Horseshoe, playing the number 3 team in the country. Marshall dominated time of possession in the game, 36-23. Did what they had to do to kind of keep that offense off the field, but just a little bit too much. Once again, they gave up 280 rushing yards. It's really hard to win a football game when the other team is running the football like that, getting 9 yards per attempt. It's difficult, little outman, but yeah, respectable first half for him.
Yeah, that was Quinshawn Judkins, who just transferred in from, well, not just, but transferred in before the season from Ole Miss, often considered one of the best running backs available via transfer portal. So the rich get richer, as Ohio State.
Get richer. I was about to say it, Dom.
Yep.
14 carries for 173 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's not a bad day at work.
Yeah. Now, if you were looking at the other side and A.J. Turner had those stats, I would have said Marshall had a great chance to win this game, because that guy has been going off all season and been very impressive to me from kind of out of nowhere. Marshall had lost a number of good running backs over the past couple of years, and it looks like they just reloaded with A.J. Turner. Now, he only went 7 carries for 32 yards in this one, still averaged 4.6 per carry. So when he was having success, he was picking up half a first down almost every time he touched the ball. But let's be honest, though, we didn't really think that this one was a possibility to be an upset, right? I mean, I thought Marshall could cover the spread, because I think it was like 40 points, which I thought was ridiculous. I thought that was a slap in the face to Marshall and the Herd fan after the season they've had thus far. But
hey, I mean, Dom, give them credit for showing up against a Big Ten team.
Yeah.
Hell, Ab was getting beat by 49 and 33 minutes into the second quarter. I mean, good for them for showing up. Guess what? They were prepared to play. It might have been those cheddar biscuits. Did y'all see that clip this week?
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I didn't see it.
Mark, fired up. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah. Essentially, Coach Huff had alluded to the fact that, like, if you come play for us here, he was essentially kind of alluding to the fact, like, if you leave Ohio State and come play for us, we'll give you free biscuits for life, which was, I don't know if there was a direct association with tutors, but that was, I think, the thought process. Yeah, I mean, just kind of a funny thing. You could tell he was tongue-in-cheek. He wasn't being serious, and the people laughed at it in the conference type of thing. But also just want to point out Mike Green on the defensive effort, number 15, didn't rack up, like, the most amazing stats, but he did have a sack and a tackle for loss. He was in the backfield early and often to try and keep Marshall in this one. So I wanted to give a quick shout-out to Mike Green, which is a great name to have when you play for the Marshall Thundering Herd and they go by, the Kelly Green. So when your last name's Green and you're playing for the Herd, that's probably a good omen there, The only better thing he could have done was went to North Texas. Yeah, that wouldn't have been too bad either, right? Already says NIL biscuits, all you can eat. Yeah, that if it's from tutors too, I've only heard good things. I've not experienced myself, but cheddar biscuits are better. Change my mind. What are you talking about? Bojangles cheddar biscuits? Because those things are good.
Bojangles cheddar biscuits are very underrated. They're phenomenal.
Yeah. Bowberry biscuits too, as a sweet treat. Gotta love those. We're not giving out any free sponsorship deals though. I mean, we don't do free ads here. So Bojangles, step up your game. Sunbelt Syndicate will gladly stamp of approval any sponsorship dollars you want to throw our way. Hardy Cat says, call Sir Mix-a-Lot. Oh, man. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, I mean, I wish we could talk about this one more, but with a 49-14 final, once we got a couple of those things out of the way, I don't really know how much more time we can spend on this. I don't think it's going to be maybe what's to come of Marshall's season. I think Ohio State is easily one of the top 3 best teams in the country. So it's going to be hard for anybody.
The hot seat?
Not after this game, no.
Not
in
now.
general.
If they have a disappointing season, if they have a disappointing season, then yes. But no, not after this game.
No, you can't base it off this game. I mean,
right? Yeah, I mean, after last season, you did hear that start creeping up because they had such a great start and then just really struggled down the stretch. So yeah, I mean, I think if the season doesn't get you at least a bowl game, you're very seriously looking at that as a possibility in the future. one coach that would only leave because of success, as Seth was mentioning early, in Bob Chesney and the Dukes roll into Chapel Hill, literally right down the street from me. So I went and took this one in person, 70-50, no defense. And it was awesome. You guys watched it on TV. I was there live. Seth, why don't you tell us what you saw first? I think you were the first one to text me about it. So let me know what you saw from this one.
So you guys want to hear something funny? So as you know, I got a haircut, and you know what comes along with that. Mac had texted the same person, because Mac and Clark are buddies. And this text had happened Friday in between games. And said that was bad. I feel bad for Sean. That's a tough one to watch. And then fast forward 24 hours later.
Yeah, I think we might have. Oh, is he coming back on? Yeah, but 24 hours later, and now the same thing's happening to him. I mean, the only good thing for him is that he scored more points.
Yeah.
Barely.
I mean, look, I'm just looking. I just got the stats pulled up. Each team had over 600 yards of offense. Like you said, defense was optional. Carolina turned the ball over 5 times. You can't do that and expect to win a football game. 3 fumbles lost, 2 picks. Their quarterback still threw for 475 yards, which is ridiculous. But, not to be outdone, Barnett from JMU threw for 388 and 5 touchdowns by himself. So every time Carolina turned the ball over, Barnett threw a touchdown pass. But, man, congrats to the Duke. That's impressive. They scored, 53 points in the first half? I mean, it was man, that's crazy.
So I'll touch on this, then we'll get back to where Seth had left off. But being there live was crazy. So they go up and they kick the field goal first to go up 3-0, nothing crazy. Then give the ball to UNC. I think it was a quick 3 and out. They might have gotten 1 first down before this happened, but UNC then punts. They block the punt, take it back for a touchdown. Ensuing kickoff, there's no letting off the gas. Chesney was going for the throat from the very start. Onside kick. Wasn't the greatest onside kick, if you got to be honest. Luckily, the UNC, I don't want to say defender, but he should have been an offensive player essentially on that. Just let it bounce right off his chest, went right back in towards JMU guys that were running onto it. They recover it, and the onslaught seemingly was on. It got a little close there for a little bit. In fact, I think UNC took the lead back pretty quickly after that, to be honest. And then it was all over after that. You could not do anything to stop that JMU offense. And like you said, Barnett throws for only 388 and 5 touchdowns, but the rushing on the same time, he goes for almost 102 touchdowns there. So still responsible for most of the offense, even though he didn't do as much as his counterpart Criswell across the way. But there was no comparison. Barnett was clearly an all-day better quarterback than Criswell was on the other side of the ball. But Seth, where were you let off when you fell off there?
2 things. I know we don't like to go off topic around here, but something I am interested in finding out is I'd like to get TJ's opinion on the culture of what we've discussed earlier, of what his opinion is on this. But I've had that on my mind all day. I just want to make sure that he's asked about that, obviously.
We lose him again?
Yep, lost him again. I guess they don't believe in internet down there in Jacksonville, Florida.
Did you lose me again?
Yeah, we did for a second, but you might be back now. Go ahead.
I'm trying to connect to this Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi won't stay connected. But long story short, coaching in this one, you could tell that JMU was just they said they didn't think they could win. They knew they could win, and they came out and proved it very early. Punched them in the mouth, like you said, touchdown, onside kick, and forced Carolina to play from behind the whole game, and they just couldn't catch up once it was out of reach. So good for JMU. I mean, that's talent right there. And some teams are going to have to buckle up when JMU comes to town, or they're going to get 70 or 80 hung on them as well.
Yeah. I would not call this game luck. When you were watching it on TV or live, that part probably didn't change. They went out and executed their plays. Yes, UNC didn't have their greatest game, but Omarion Hampton still goes for 139 yards, 3 touchdowns. I said if they didn't shut him down and you allowed him to have that kind of performance, UNC wins this game. So
a lot of his yardage came late, correct?
He had yardage throughout. He had a 48-yard run.
Halftime.
Yeah, and he did not. When I saw the statistic after the game, because again, I'm not seeing the stats as I'm watching the game there live, I was shocked that he had that many yards because it did not feel like that. And obviously, a lot of his touchdowns were short yardage stuff towards, closer to the end zone. So I was surprised that he had that many yards. But I mean, it looked like the secondaries were just completely wide open there for a while on both sides in that first quarter, especially. Yeah, it was again an insanely fun game to watch. The amount of UNC fans that left at halftime, which game kind of like looked over, I guess. But again, with the defenses playing the way they were, I don't know why anybody left that game until at least the end of the third quarter, because stuff happens. And, that's when depth becomes an issue. There was some guys on JMU squad going down with injuries or cramping. You could see that there was a slight possibility, 2 quick scores, and this game looks vastly closer than it should be. Again,
Carolina football, though, Dom.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there was a guy talking some trash on one of our posts that we put up, and he says, Carolina away, and then we'll be back. I'm like, no, you won't. You do this every time. You put guys in the NFL because you have some great players. You never have a good team, and so I thought JMU could easily come in and cover some of that 10 or 10.5 point spread, whatever it ended up being. I thought they had an outside chance at winning, but let's be honest, this is a team that came in averaging like less than 30 points a game, and they put a 70-point output. I went over at halftime and talked to a couple Duke's fans while I was, grabbing some refreshments, and they were all shocked. None of them saw that coming. They all wanted to win the game, and they traveled down in droves. UNC fans, I heard a number of UNC fans telling them how impressed they were with how many people they brought and how loud they were. They were loud, man. I'm telling you, I was on the opposite corner of where those guys were at, and they were loud. I would not say it compares to the amount of people the App brought in. Obviously, that's an in-state game with a lot of App State people in the triangle. But, I was impressed with how much purple I saw there, and a lot of people representing the Dukes.
You know what this JMU program, culture, team, winning reminds me a lot of, fellas?
What's that?
Number 14, 40 points a game, 3 national championships, continued success, continuing coaching, foot on the throat, not letting up, that kind of thing. For like the last 5 years. It's a good time to be a JMU fan all the way around. Basketball, baseball, football. Hey, you made a regional with 3 wins this year in baseball. Congrats. No, when I look at JMU, I think that's a good program. It would be a fun time to be a fan of JMU sports all the way around. I feel like they do it the right way as well. Good for them, man.
About the only thing they don't do the right way is how much they charge their students for athletics. But when you're getting what were you saying, Marv?
It's paying off.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When you get the payoff that you're getting with this, and it's like people said, you can't pay for that type of exposure when you have success in athletics. You just can't do it. It doesn't. I mean, you can literally do it, but obviously you don't get the amount of desired press or in front of the amount of people that you will when you do it on the athletics fields. It's just not. It just doesn't happen.
Piggybacking off what you just said about athletic funds, have you heard what Tennessee's doing with ticket sales now?
Yeah, I hate it.
Per ticket.
Hey, you can hate it all you want, but buddy, that's the culture of football these days. I mean, it is what it is.
But
football's going to suck in about 2 years.
As a paying customer, when ticket prices and parking prices continually go up, the last thing I want to hear is we're going to tack on a little bit more. Essentially, what you're telling me is that our donors don't give enough money, so we're going to go get it this way. And I mean, I've seen a lot of backlash about that, because guess who's really complaining about that? The people that are in the lowest level of athletics programs trying to build up. They're doing the coach assistants, equipment people that get paid pennies, if anything. And some of those are student run type deals. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the people that are literally trying to make it in athletics, getting paid next to nothing to make a living. Like they're living 2 and 3 people to an apartment instead of having their own, and not getting pay raises and dropping out of the profession because they literally can't live off of the wages. I'm glad players are getting paid, but I do want to see a full spectrum, right? Like, why don't you guys say you're going to give that to the program and then you can spread it out a little bit?
Think about it like this, though, Dom. You and I are both season ticket holders to App. If App said, hey, we're going to raise season ticket prices by $5 per game, so $30 for your overall season ticket cost, and that money is going to go straight to a collective so that we can get talented players, I'd be okay with it. I'd gladly pay the extra money if the product on the field was better.
Yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to something where they're upfront and they're telling you like it's a minimal thing.
I think that's what they did, though. I think they said, hey, it's $10 per ticket, and it's going to go straight to NIL.
Yeah.
5 years ago, if we're sitting here having the same conversation, and you tell me in 5 years what we're going to be doing today, it blows my mind what's going on.
Yeah.
I've told both of you, I'm the most diehard college football fan, and I don't even have a specific team. I'll pull for App because I live in Boone. I've gone there all my life. But in 2 to 3 years, I could see myself easily not even turning on a football game on Saturday because of this. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. And then they act like they're NFL players while they're out there. It's not what it used to be, boys, by any means.
I
was listening to another podcast today. If I would have told you 5 years ago that 40% of App's starting 22 wasn't recruited and didn't sign with App out of high school, would you ever believe that we were 40% are ever coming from transfers?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Especially go back to Chase Bryce. Be like, your starting quarterback for 2 years is already going to played. He's already won a national championship at another school, and he's played at another ACC school. But he's going to be your quarterback for 2 years. I'm like, dude, no. Like, what are you talking about? It's absolutely insane.
Yeah. Ben James saying he's disappointed in Arkansas State, and he's glad they're on a bye this week. And he did. We have to give him credit. He said, did I say JMU? And it says updates, but he means upset UNC big. He did say it. I got to give him credit. He said it on there, and I was like, oh, okay, yeah, it'd be good. But I didn't think it was going to happen. It did. But we'll move on now to the Ragin' Cajuns versus the Tulane Green Wave. I was hoping the Cajuns could pull this one out for a multitude of reasons. One, you've got a head coach that moved over from Troy to take over this head spot at Tulane, so you want to show him that he made the wrong decision, right? Not that he left Louisiana, but still, he left the conference. You want the conference to get a victory over that, take Tulane out of the shot of the G5, playoff rep, and also keep the Cajuns rolling along and get another win over the American. Unfortunately, as we can see, that did not happen as Tulane wins this one 41-33. Another game where defense was a little bit optional, right, guys?
Yeah. So I watched the entire second half. This was a good game. Every time Tulane would score, Louisiana would come back and answer. They were just a player or two away. Looking at the stats, they actually outgained Tulane. Their big problem was they were 2 of 9 on third down. That efficiency is not going to get it done. And they had 2 turnovers to Tulane's 0 turnovers. But I thought that was a really, really good football team. Football game. Louisiana's a good football team. Like I said, little weird not having fans on one side of your stadium. But hey, excuse us while we grow kind of deal. But great football game. If I'm a Louisiana fan, I'm really encouraged. One possession game. They were a touchdown and a 2-point conversion away from going into overtime. Nothing to be disappointed about here.
Yeah, if you look at what the Cajuns were able to do defensively, it sounds weird because they allowed 41 points, but Tulane's quarterback, Mensa, pictured here, threw for 83 yards.
Yep.
83 yards, 1 touchdown, average 4.9 per attempt. Well, and he only threw it for 17. He only threw 17 times.
Well, here's the other is one pass play was 33 yards. So
That's crazy.
Yeah, but the Tulane running back did have 166 yards.
Yeah, and the 2 picks thrown by Woolridge were both pick sixes because they scored 2 touchdowns defensively there. So that's the difference here. And again, as simple as we can make football, it comes down to that stuff sometimes, right? Control the ball and limit your turnovers, and this game goes the other direction. So, yeah, I don't know. Ben wants more credit. Did I call this upset with Tulane winning? I don't know if I'd call Tulane winning an upset. I would think that they were favored coming into this game. But
only by
Willie Fritz go to Houston, right?
Yes,
believe so.
They're terrible. That was a terrible move.
Ask his bank account.
That's all I've got on that one.
Yeah. I think though ultimately.
That's it.
Mark, say it one more time.
It was a 1.5 point spread. Tulane was favored by 1.5 points.
Okay.
Overhead.
Because if you look at what Tulane had done, as far as like who they had played, I mean, just look at why they were 1-2 coming in. They played Southeast Louisiana. Okay, win easily, 52-0. They played ranked Kansas State, only lost 34-27. They played a ranked Oklahoma team, only lost 34-19, and they were dangerously close towards the end in that Oklahoma game. So, yeah, I mean, it's not hard to see why they were favored. They had the experience against good teams, and they were pushing them to their limits coming in. And to be fair with the Cajuns, you possibly didn't quite know, right? They played an FCS team in Grambling, and then they went on the road and played Kennesaw State, which, we don't really know enough about as well. So you didn't quite know where the Cajuns were at. So I think it's a lot of respect, actually, at this point. If they were only favored, Tulane was only favored by 1.5. Obviously, that's, the home underdog there for the Cajuns. But, yeah, just disappointing they couldn't get it in front of their own fans because that's a big one with Tulane coming over there from New Orleans. But, yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I still think they're going to be a challenger in the West without any question about it. Okay, Ben James's team is up. Ben James was celebrating his birthday on Saturday. What he was not celebrating was the 52-7 shellacking that Iowa State handed the Red Wolves, unfortunately. I mean, once again, I don't know if you expect to win a game like this with what Arkansas State had done coming in against Michigan, though. I would have thought you would have fared a little bit better than 52-7. I did not think Iowa State was anywhere near, what Michigan could do, being ranked lower and thought of lower. But then they get blown out like this by almost 50 points. I mean, I don't know, guys. What do you got to say about this one?
Well, they turned the ball over 4 times. That doesn't help you. And 5 for 13 on third downs doesn't help you either. And 216 total yards of offense. I don't know. Maybe Iowa State's better. Maybe they just matched up better with Michigan. But I'm with you, kind of seeing some of their results. You thought it would have been a more competitive game than this. They didn't score until well into the fourth quarter. That game was that was a garbage time touchdown, if you will. But thought it would have been a little bit closer than this.
No doubt. Seth, did you see any of this one real quick?
I did. Is that still the kid from East Forsyth, the quarterback?
Well, not pictured here. He is the starter. Jalen Rayner is the starter. That's what I was going to mention, so I'll touch on that there. The last 2 games, I don't think Rayner – I'd have to double-check the Michigan game. I don't think Rayner's gone for a touchdown on the ground or in the air. Timmy McClain has thrown 2 touchdowns, one against Michigan, one against Iowa State. So I want to say the
5 of 16 for 68 yards and 2 picks.
Yeah.
Not great there.
Are these still considered like money games?
Oh yeah.
Or are they? Okay.
Yep. Absolutely. I'm pulling up the stats for the Michigan game because I'm pretty sure Rayner didn't have any touchdowns in that one either.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure JMU like $500,000 to come and put 70 on them.
Really?
Yep.
So if it's a non-conference game, is it so you're paying that team to come to you? Is that basically what it is?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, just the payments could range, right? I mean, we've seen teams and heard of teams getting paid like $1 million to come, and then you're seeing $500,000, you're seeing $750,000.
Right.
Didn't Notre Dame pay Northern Illinois $1.2 million?
I think it was, yeah.
Ooh, wow.
So Ben's got some more information from us here on this one. McLean played all of the second half due to Rayner not setting his feet quick enough, and McLean threw 2 touchdowns against Michigan. Oh, he did throw 2 touchdowns against Michigan. Okay. That's right, because the one came right at the very end. So, interesting development, though. Rayner was named the best collegiate thrower at the Peyton Manning Academy over the summer. Thought to be one of the possible players of the year in the Sun Belt. And he's really struggled against 2 really good defenses thus far, and his backup has come in and outperformed him. The one thing you have to question is, is the backup Timmy McLean here going against 2s and 3s?
2s, yeah.
So, I don't know if Rayner gets replaced. Do we start seeing more, split time though? Like, I don't know. You have to question it, but again, maybe once we get a return to what Arkansas State is going to see the rest of the year and not these heavily ranked teams, we see Rayner come back to form and get back to where he was. But I have been a little disappointed that we didn't see more out of him against some of these big teams. I thought he could be the difference maker in them, but not to be as of yet. So unfortunately, they go down pretty big there. And Ben, not really looking forward to A-State going up against South Alabama there in 2 weeks. Yeah, I don't know if anybody's looking forward to going up against A-State at this point. They've been a scoring machine, and obviously they went Thursday and took care of App State. This one was a surprise to me, and maybe it shouldn't have been, but I do not think highly of Virginia in football, not routinely, not this year. But they go into Conway and win 43-24 over Coastal Carolina, who before last week against Temple had looked mighty good, like one of the best teams in this conference. I watched a little bit of this one. Did you guys tune into this one at all, Seth? I'll start with you first.
I followed a little bit.
We lose him.
Might have.
Here. Sorry.
Now you're back.
Not really shocking. I could have. Even if Coastal. I'm not familiar with both this year that well, but not surprising. I'm not sure of Virginia's record, to be honest with you, but
3-1. Now 3-1. It's 3-1.
Oh, I see it now. Okay. No, don't. I don't have a whole lot to say.
It's all good, man. I'm going to tell you who they beat so far.
Well, they ran for 300. So there you go.
Hard to win when you control the ball on the clock like that. But so far they had beat Richmond 34-13, Wake Forest 31-30, Maryland they dropped 27-13. They obviously got back on track with this year. Richmond's a good FCS team. They beat them. They didn't crush them. Wake Forest they won by 1. So the Maryland game they lost by 14. I just wasn't blown away, and I thought if Coastal's anywhere near as good as we thought they were after the first 2 weeks, they could easily win this one, especially at home. You've got the home crowd hopefully on your side. A lot of excitement going into this one. I just thought that they could at least easily cover because I think once again it was a home dog for the Sun Belt situation. I wasn't blown away by Virginia, but they did look good in this one, and Vasco did not. He struggled a little bit. He goes for 222, just 1 touchdown and 1 interception, though, after that game against Temple. I thought he might kind of get back on track. You even saw Noah Kim come into this game late and actually throw a touchdown pass. That was the Michigan State transfer that came in before the season. So, I don't know. Marv, thoughts on this one?
Like I said, when you allow the other team to run for 384 yards and dominate time of possession like that, it's not going to turn out well for you. It wasn't like they had a rash of turnovers. They threw the pick. I think they had a fumble in the game as well. But Virginia's running back, Xavier Brown, 9 carries, 171 yards. and didn't score a touchdown.
Yeah, that's crazy because his long run was 75 yards, so he was dang close.
It's like the running back from Varsity Blues. Doesn't get in the end zone at all.
No.
Hey, shout out Taylor Lamb, quarterback coach, Virginia.
Is that where he's at now? I forgot that.
Where he's at? I think this is like his third season there.
Shout out to his uncle Trey Lamb too.
Yeah,
is that his uncle?
Just for the heck of it.
Yeah, just for the heck of it. No underlying motive
Johnson
there.
City's not that far from Boone, baby.
Steph, I'm sure that would make you happy. A Lamb in Boone as a head coach, and then maybe the return of Tweetsy Taylor as an offensive coordinator. Just saying.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Yeah. So with another head coach that's on a hot seat and people are clamoring for it to be removed, is another black and gold team in this conference. Ooh. Southern Miss drops to 1-3 on the season after a 44-7 loss. This is that game we were talking about, Jacksonville, Alabama, to Jackson State.
Didn't see that one.
Not much to say.
Didn't see that one coming.
I could have said that I could see a loss. I could have seen a win before this game happened. To see them lose 44-7 is I don't even really know.
They turned the ball over 6 times.
4 times by the quarterbacks. Yeah, 2 interceptions each.
Yeah, and also 2 fumbles. Man, yeah. Once again, I mean, look, they left 500 yards of offense. They were 1 for 10 on third down with 6 turnovers.
Mercy.
Yeah, it's not good.
That's not good at all.
No. Not good. And Ben is right. We were going to touch on this too. Rumor is that Southern Miss head coach is going to be fired tomorrow. That is Coach Will Hall. Yeah, I mean, his seat wasn't extremely hot after last season, but there was definitely some people that wanted it to be. And then with the way this season has started, your only win over an FCS team. I mean, this is the type of game you win, right? Jacksonville State coming in was winless as well. And this is the type of game that you have to win to get back on track. You don't even have to win it impressively. You just have to win by 1 point or 25. Like, just win the game. And
can't win the game when you they had 5 more turnovers and they had first downs.
Yeah. Now, this is the interesting thing. You know, this is across the board. It's not just going to affect Southern Miss. But if you do have a head coaching turnover with the state of NIL and transfer portal, you could go from a team that doesn't win any games this year or struggle to win any more along the way with whatever person gets named interim head coach if this firing were to happen. But you could have an entirely different roster next year, and what used to take 2, 3, 4 years to rebuild from a coaching change. Mm-hmm. You could be easily in a bowl game, if not in a conference championship game the very next year because of how these rosters can be flipped. So I can see a lot of why that thought process of removing the coach could be beneficial because, again, there's that time frame has become much shorter. Doesn't mean it's going to happen automatically, but the chance of it happening is much greater than it ever used to be with how things are set up. So interesting to see what will happen there if it actually happens. Artie says Hall will have to go this season. He might not make it through the season. Yeah, and Ben had said we're seeing a lot and hearing a lot of smoke, and where there's smoke, there's usually fire. So if he is on the chopping block as soon as tomorrow, I'm sure it'll be news rippling through the Sun Belt about which direction Southern Miss will go next. And yes, the Southern Miss QB, former Florida State backup. Well, John White also got in there and threw 2 picks as well. So neither quarterback having a tremendous year to get Southern Miss.
I believe Billy Wiles is the guy next up at App too, correct?
Yep. He is. He certainly is. But the Troy Trojans played host to what was really a pesky FCS team in Florida A&M, but win the game in the end 34-12 to finally, and kind of surprisingly to me, get on the board with their first win of the season. Obviously, this isn't a shocking win, right? You knew this one was coming, but I don't know. The guy pictured here, Ross, just continues for the second week in a row to go completely off. Marv, I'm guessing you have his stats right in front of you right now.
11 for 229 and 3 tutties. Not a bad. And listen, Crowder, I mean, he threw for 295 and 4 touchdowns.
Mm-hmm.
Those two obviously have a very good connection on the same page. But no, this doesn't surprise you. I think we talked last week. This was a get-right game for Troy. You know, Troy's got a lot of new pieces, right? Coaches, players, the whole nine. So, yeah, this didn't surprise me, just what you would expect going up against an FCS school. Hey,
yeah.
Interesting stat of this game, though.
Yeah.
25 total penalties for 225 yards. Yeah. Sloppy.
Yeah, I'd say sloppy. Here's the interesting thing. So this game at the half is a one-score game. Troy only up 14-9. But there's the good thing, in a way, right? Even though it's close, Troy did not allow Florida A&M to score a single touchdown. So, you know, yes, it's close. Yes, it's a hard-fought victory in some sense, but you obviously are getting better and better on that defensive front as the season has continued. With Iowa last week and now Florida A&M, again, you want to win this game by more, but Florida A&M is a good FCS team. I think both their losses have come only to FBS teams. I'm going to double check that because I feel like they had a pretty big game to start the year off too. Oh yeah, Miami. So a ranked Miami team crushed them, and then Troy beats them, but they beat South Carolina State and Norfolk State themselves to start the season off 2-0 before those two losses came. So yeah, I mean, this is not a bad Florida A&M team, but yeah, it's good to see them take care of business. Goose, again, one of the best it's not nickname, best names in all of college football, throwing the ball around there. Damian Taylor goes for a century mark again. I don't have the stats in front of me if he's the leading rusher in the Sun Belt thus far, but it wouldn't surprise me. He's gone for the century mark a few times. Maybe Marv can pull that up, but yeah, he continues to impress. Again, if Goose continues to round into form like this, and you've got Damian Taylor running the ball and Devontae Ross catching the ball, I mean, you've got a three-headed monster just like you're good. You know, the South Alabama and Troy matchup is going to be looking pretty darn good by the time we get to see it this year.
Yep. Yeah. What week is that?
Sort of question.
If I'm not mistaken.
Well, sometimes they do that weekday thing with those guys. It's actually 10/15, so October 15th.
Okay. So 3 weeks.
Yeah, not too far. I wish, some of those things were kept for that like rivalry week thing, but we know that unfortunately because of TV tie-ins, a lot of those types of games get thrown on Wednesdays and Thursdays to bring in the viewership. Ole Miss 52-13 over Georgia Southern. As you guys alluded to, this game may have been a little bit closer at the beginning. Obviously, once again, you're looking at a team that wasn't really likely to win, right?
No, I think Ole Miss is just explosive. I think Jackson Dart averages over 300 yards a game. Obviously, you're going to have to play catch up the whole game. So, Ole Miss, legitimate contender to win a national championship. Not a lot to say. At least Georgia Southern held their own somewhat, but not particularly.
No, I mean it was 24-7 at halftime. Dart threw for 382 and 4 touchdowns. French for Georgia Southern was efficient. It was 20 for 28, but only 109 yards. It was dink and dunk. Did throw a pick. Just overmatched. Like Seth said, Ole Miss's offense is just, if you can't slow them down, you have no chance.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a powerful team. Like you guys said, this is a national title contender for a reason. We'll see if you guys talking about coaching positions changing up. We'll see if Lane Kiffin is at Ole Miss too much longer, if that Florida position becomes open or something. I've seen some of those rumors thrown about. So, yeah, since we had some and we thought this was going to be it, let's get to this last one here because it's kind of similar to what we just talked about. Texas 51-3 over ULM, the number one team in the land. Again, not a shocking outcome. I was hoping Warhawks would put up a little bit more of a fight, something like 2-3 touchdowns at least. But yeah, it wasn't meant to be there. I don't know.
They only had 4 yards passing. It's really hard, and 57 on the ground. I mean, they had 111 total yards. They did get 2 picks off of Mr. Manning. but his first start, so maybe a little bit of grace there. But no, number one team in the country for a reason. I don't think they're the number one team in the country at the end of the year, but for right now, hook 'em horns and enjoy beating the crap out of the Warhawks.
Yeah. I mean, no quarterback really had an amazing game. I mean, I would say for what you heard about Arch Manning coming in to go for 258, 2 touchdowns, but also throw 2 interceptions, that's not going to blow anybody away. But like you said, it's also his first start. Yep. I saw the early turnover in the interception. I believe they got that before any score was made in the game. So you're like, oh man, what's happening? But as we know, it's way too early to get excited about something like that. And they took a 21-0 first quarter lead after that interception. So it didn't matter all that much. Hardy tried to do his best on the ground, but Curry actually, they matched each other just 30 yards apiece. But again, that's not surprising with this vaunted Texas defense. All right. Well, I have one last little thing. This is the outlook, guys. We're going to put this on the main screen here. So let me know if you disagree with any of this. Some teams were on bye, so it was kind of hard to say what their team outlook is necessarily. I still think Texas State playing Arizona State really close and probably could have and should have won that game if that ball's delivered a little bit more to the outside by McLeod. I think they're still very happy about their season. South Alabama's now thinking that they're a top-tier Sun Belt team all of a sudden, which they may be. JMU, obviously, right, with that performance. Most of the other teams are in the middle, two kind of partly sunny and just little overcast outlooks. And then you've got 3 teams I think are pretty clear at the bottom. ODU, Southern Miss, and App State. You guys got anything to say about where these teams are sitting right now?
I'd go App to the cloudy.
You'd move them up?
I wouldn't give up hope just yet.
Okay.
Still firing, right? Don't give up hope just yet.
I can respect it because that game, that in-state game against ECU does mean something.
It does.
But I think biggest rivalry in East Tennessee, Dom.
The biggest rivalry in East Tennessee, yeah. That one.
The team coach.
That one meant a little. Yeah, they were. They definitely were. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Arkansas State's now lost 2 games to ranked opponents. I don't think they're down on their season. I just don't think, they're the way those games have gone have been where they maybe, had hoped. And Troy, maybe I'm too hard on Troy, but it from what they've been doing to what they're doing so far this year, and what they've done the last 2 weeks, maybe, they should be in that, the sun's starting to peek out a little bit more, but, everybody, most teams are in that mostly sunny type look there with how their seasons are going so far.
I like it. I agree with it. Maybe 1 or 2 changes, but it's good.
We got to do something better where we can put like all of our rankings together and then it situates itself more evenly for all 3 of our thoughts instead of just mine. But that would involve you guys putting in a bunch more work to get me that so that we can have it on time for the show.
Involves dollars as well, buddy.
Not from me, it doesn't. Oh man. Well, fellas,
appreciate you having me, buddy.
Yeah, I just did the wrong thing there. Thanks for jumping on, guys. And wrapping up this week of Sun Belt action. Obviously, we hoped a couple games would have gone our way, but it was always going to be tough to win with 4 ranked teams on the schedule this week.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, going to be a little rough. But guys, travel safely back, and we'll see you guys all next week at this point.
All right, buddy.
All right, see you guys.
See you guys.
Syndicate.